Hi, I'm Josh Cahan, author of the Yedid Nefesh Haggadah, sharing a few video words of wisdom for this year's Seder. Of all the texts that I have kind of rediscovered and learned to see in a new light in the process of making my own Haggadah, none has been more revolutionary than Dayeinu, which I always thought of as kind of a kid song slash something silly or even nonsensical. Because it starts out, if God had taken us out of Egypt, but not below Asavahem Shvatim, had not done signs against the Egyptians, right? Had done those things, but not given us their wealth, had given us that, but not opened the sea, etc., etc. At any one of those points, Dayeinu, it would have been enough for us, which is clearly ridiculous. You can hardly imagine the Israelites in the desert having gotten to the sea, God not opening the sea, and them saying, "Oh, but what you've done is you've done enough. It's really great." In fact, we know that they did literally the opposite. Right? God had done all of those first things, struck their gods, struck the firstborn, given them the wealth, brought them out of Egypt. They're standing at the edge of the sea. The Egyptians are pursuing behind them. And what do they say? What? There aren't enough graves in Egypt? That you have to bury us here? So first I learned what the word Dayeinu actually means. Here, I'm just going to skip over to this thing here. The word Dayeinu here in the Talmud in Psachim, Rabbi Yitzchak says, why aren't there perot ginosar, these delicious special fruits that the rabbis loved? Why don't they have those in Jerusalem? There's the same question about the hot springs of Tiberias. Why aren't there hot springs in Jerusalem? And the reason is because if there were these fruits or hot springs in Jerusalem, then when people came up for pilgrimage to the temple and they ate those amazing fruits or enjoyed the hot springs, they would say, "Oh my God, this is so amazing. If I'd only made the trip for this, it would have been worth it. Would have been worth all the effort." Not that I don't also want to do the other thing, but this is great enough that it would merit its own trip. Now, in the temple, the rabbis didn't want that because they didn't want anything to compete with the centrality and the focus on pilgrimage. But it helps make a lot more sense of this song. Because what we're now saying is not, "Oh, it would have been enough for us if you'd only done part of it." What we're saying is that if each one of these things, if God had only done that one thing, that would have been sufficient for us to feel gratitude, for us to owe God a debt and loyalty. It would have been enough to demonstrate God's tremendous, boundless love. And that is compelling. Each of these things is a great act of kindness, of love, that deserves to be recognized on its own and not just lumped in with everything. Right? Each act that God did deserves to be recognized as meaningful and as a demonstration of love that deserves response. The second thing about Dayeinu is actually an inversion of a psalm, Psalm 78, which declares that it's going to fulfill the mitzvah from Exodus of "you shall tell your children." It says, we have been told by our parents so that we could pass on to our children the story of the Exodus. Why? So that our children Don't make the same mistake as the Israelites in the desert, who, the psalm goes on to describe, after each one of these acts of great kindness and love, responded with ingratitude, with disloyalty, with rebellion, with resentment. So they got to the edge of the sea. They're not sure what happens next. They see the Egyptians coming. They turn on Moses and through Moses on God. They've just watched the sea closing over their enemies. They've sung this emotion-laden song of freedom and joy. And immediately they're thirsty. They turn angrily on Moses and on God. So this song is actually trying to reverse that, to do a redo and fix what the Israelites got wrong. God brought them out and gave them the Egyptians' wealth. They're getting to the edge of the sea, which is not yet opened up, right? We're in that moment. They're about to say, and we break in and say, Dayeinu. You haven't yet showed us how we're going forward, but the things you have done for us up to this point are more than sufficient for us to have total confidence in your love and total commitment to stick to following you and sticking with you. They're standing on the edge of the sea. They start to feel that thirst. They don't know where the path goes next. They're about to complain. We break in and say, oh, no, Dayeinu. We don't know where things are going from here, but everything you've done till now is sufficient, more than sufficient for us to be confident and to stay loyal and devoted. And in that sense, not only is this a compelling story, but the moments when we need on their behalf to jump in and say Dayeinu, to assert continued faith and loyalty where they didn't, is precisely in the dark, hard, and frightening moments. Precisely in the moments when they perhaps lost that faith. We're not really talking retrospectively from now after everything's done. We're really saying in the moments, in the time after God had led us out of Egypt, but when God had not yet split the sea, we should have felt the closeness and commitment to say, Dayeinu, we will continue to trust you and follow you. In each of the dark and hard moments, we remember what God has done for us, remember the gifts we've had until now, and we say, while we wait to see how the path moves forward, we remain committed. We are your people. What you have done for us is magnificent and Dayeinu.